Okay, I'll call the meeting to order and welcome everyone. It's nice to see such a big turnout when you're all supposed to be on holidays. The first item on the agenda is a recommendation the council waive section 3.5 of the procedural bylaw to permit the public meeting under the Planning Act to be held within the regular council meeting of Tuesday, August 6th. Can I get a motion to that effect? Sherry and Wendy, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We'll move on to 3-minute delegations. We have 3 this evening. 3-minute delegations are brief presentations. There won't be much time in terms of discussion, but I have a request from Stephanie Brohotsky to be the first of the 3-minute delegations, and you will be limited to 3 minutes. So you know the routine here. With the microphone, just press the silver button, and if it turns red, you're on, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Rewise. Okay, you have all received the report that Mr. Ellens, Mr. Goodyear, and myself had prepared to give to the Committee of Adjustment on July 24th, and I emailed it to you over a week ago. So I'm not going to repeat that list of about a dozen concerns. I'm just going to briefly address issues that appeared at the July 24th meeting, and they are. First of all, the manager of Development Services incorrectly addressed one of the concerns as being just a typo on the public notice. This error was submitted on all 4 2023 applications concerning Parcel C, and he didn't provide a satisfactory explanation as to why the prior consents report and roll numbers did not support his interpretation of conveyability. Now, the committee accepted Mr. Emil Nyberg's explanation that 5 wells were being decommissioned, not because of contamination, but because the water was unsafe for drinking. The committee showed no concern that drilling in this significant recharge area yielded a 55% failure rate, largely due to salt contamination. Nor did they question how many more wells must be drilled in order to produce the additional 4 wells required to service the 9 proposed lots. Nobody on the committee remarked on the fact that Parcel C applications consist of 4 severances plus retained. With inadequate time to prepare a report and for staff and the committee to consider the many and serious conditions raised, a decision to defer approval would have been appropriate. As it was, liability for a premature decision was dumped by the committee on Mr. Sands. Mr. Sands has been placed in unfair positions before in having to serve as acting CAO in addition to his duties as planner and manager of development services. In other words, as his own supervisor. He's been placed in the position of defending township agricultural policies, both current and proposed, that violate the PPS. In holding an approval meeting on July 24th for the current Parcel C applications, the Committee of Adjustment violated Stone Mills Bylaw 2012-629. This bylaw required that the applications be addressed in August, providing time for addressing our commentary. In voting to approve rather than defer or reject, the committee waived the opportunity and requirement to carefully consider all commentary regarding the application. Little or no consideration was given to the seriousness of concerns expressed. The violation of oath on its own should have been grounds enough to dismiss all of the applications upon first submission. In conclusion, in the rush to prematurely approve these applications, in the willingness to investigate and shoulder responsibility, in the unwillingness, to investigate and shoulder responsibility for decisions with respect to a major development in a sensitive groundwater area of the township, the committee has not met standards outlined in the Stone Mills Code of Conduct or Procedural Bylaw 2012-679. They have not displayed a commitment to the protection of lands in the township or to the concerns of residents and farmers in particular. Perhaps their collective mindset can be expressed in the September 20th, 23 commentary provided by the committee chair. Quote, "I'm sure as everyone knows, we are more or less a bedroom community," unquote. And, quote, "agricultural in this area is kind of a dying thing," unquote. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, I believe Wayne Goodyear. Is that right, Wayne? Or is it Jacob? Go ahead, Jake. Jacob Ellens.
Thank you, Revise and councilors. I'm going to make just a few comments about the RAG amendments. Our REEV invites us to affirm these proposals as the best interim tool available to slow down the loss of prime farmland, now seen as alarming by all who value the protection of our valuable farmland. So one has been speaking out for months about our concerns about our township land use policies. I do recognize some ways in which the proposed amendments are better than the wide open policies of our current rural zoning. We can, for example, all applaud the intent, although possibly unenforceable, of trying to end the disastrous planning that allows the building of a house in the middle of a large fertile field. But, and there's much to but about in these amendments. First, the amendments are designed to restrict the building on severances. As far as we can see, a buyer who purchases a parcel of farmland and does not apply for a severance would be legally entitled to do with his land what he wishes, including building a house in the middle of it. Second, the proposed amendments would allow 3 severances to be applied for on a parcel of land. Well, this is exactly what the current rural zoning allows in class 1 to 3 land. Third, one aim of the RAG amendments is to set conditions and severances so that farming could be carried out along with strategic placement of houses. If we take the Robinson Road severances as an example, RAG would allow 50 acres consisting of 3 parcels to be built up with 9 houses. The question, I guess, is what farmer would carry out farming in the spaces that remain? Fourth, let me ask a concrete question. Have you consulted with legal counsel regarding the proposal's attempt to remove a landowner's fee simple right to build his home anywhere he wants on a lot, aside from the generally accepted limitations such as MDS, septic setback, and so on? I want to give 3 summarizing, shows 3 concerns. 1, the proposed amendments will not, we fear, substantially curtail the alarming pace of development in class 1 to 3 lands in our township. Second, the amendments would not, we think, significantly slow down the trend of inflating the price of farmland, which is caused by a number of factors, but none greater than that developers are now able to offer double the price per acre for farmland, leaving working farmers locked out of the market at the cost of farmland that has risen beyond the level that's economically viable for farming. Third, the proposed RAG amendments, no less than our current rural zoning for some 23,000 acres of class 1 to 3 lands in our township, contradict our provincial policy statement. Let me quote that, which language is familiar to you, but it's important. Prime agricultural areas shall be protected for long-term use for agriculture. Prime agriculture areas are areas where prime agricultural lands predominate. Specialty crop areas should be given the highest priority for protection, followed by Canada Land Inventory Class 1, 2, and 3 lands, and any associated Class 4 through 7 lands within the prime agricultural area. The current PPS from 2020 determines what any municipality in Ontario may do with its land use policy. Please note how the 3 parts of the policy fit together. First, it begins with prime agricultural areas. Second, which are those where prime agricultural lands predominate. And third, which in turn are constituted by CLI class 1 to 3 lands and any associated class 4 through 7. Taken together, prime agricultural areas, prime agricultural lands, and class 1 to 3 and beyond soils are of one piece. They cannot be disentangled.
Jake, you're at 3.5 minutes. Can you just
Okay,
wrap it up?
I'll leave out my last sentence. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Wayne Goodyear.
I handed out a 3-page thing that you can turn to the 3rd page because that's the highlights and the rest you can read at your leisure. And I honestly, this is not, I'm not trying to be rhetorical. I'm honestly telling you that these are steps that if we take them, we can solve both problems. We can make a lot of land available for development and we can identify our lands that need to be protected, and we can do it a lot sooner than 2 to 5 years, if then, from trying to get a LEAR study. Here we go. Step 1, there are 6 steps to ensure a positive future for development and agriculture in Stone Mills. Step 1, first of all, I want my elected officers, my elected representatives here to read in full the Freedom of Information documents requested by Ms. Brahachi. And I believe they've been made available to you, and if not, they should be. So would you please read them, and would you please ask your staff to put them in some chronological order, because it's very difficult at first. They're They're in the order that they were found by the clerk, and that's understandable. She does a search and puts them in whatever order she can. Okay, it's really important for you folks to see what's in there. Step 2, focus on Mr. Davison's clarification of the focus of rezoning efforts. A meeting or so ago, Mr. Davison clarified it, and he said that those activities, and he said it pretty clearly, have nothing to do with Stone Mills Township, okay? The situation was that Stone Mills Township still had prime agricultural lands designated and restrictions on severances, and both of the others, Newburgh and Sheffield, did not. And so really, that's a significant problem you'll see once you get into the documents, that you're talking about Stone Mills Township having done something, but in actual fact, the focus was only on one ward, and those wards had been dissolved in 1998. Step 3, examine the irregularities and procedure revealed in the Freedom of Information, including but not limited to the following. See, these are just some issues, but there are many in there. The Committee of Adjustment members become a task force so that the Committee of Adjustment becomes a driving force behind removal of PA zoning. Doing so makes the C of A vulnerable to conflict of interest because you have the people who are going to be reviewing severances, determining policy, what lands will be changed in their zoning. And that's never going to pass muster. Okay. Note the multiple improprieties of the soil survey documented for council in earlier presentations. Spent a whole bunch of time, and you had the documents, and they'll be in the download for you anyway, of all the things that went wrong with doing that soil survey, why it does not represent what they thought it would. Okay, in fact, Omafra, basically you'll see the Bender's letter when he writes to Vilatis at Omafra, he actually misrepresents the findings of the soil survey in his letter. Pay special attention, please, to March 27th, 2007, at which ministries provide requirements for official plan approvals and offer strategies to address concerns about the need for severances. They opened doors there, and those doors were ignored.
Past time, Wayne, just
That
make a
time? Yeah,
conclusion.
that's fine. I think you should rescind 214-744, not just the amendments, rescind that because it in turn is based upon some very compromised information that was sent to the ministries. Thanks very much. The other sheet clarifies the situation at Ontario Farmers Association, a separate sheet. So the single clarifies that. Thanks a lot.
Could I get a motion to receive those 3-minute delegations? Wenda, Crystal Lee, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. So we have a modification to the agenda. Is that right? Brandy, can you remind me what that is?
So we have a request to amend the agenda, the closed session agenda, to add an additional item with regards to an identifiable individual. So if we can get a motion to amend the agenda.
Can I get a motion, please? Doug and Sherry, all in favor? And can that include an acceptance of the agenda as it is now amended? Okay, then that's taken care of. Any conflicts of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof, Sherry?
Sorry, I want to declare for item 10.2, I'm sorry, yep, 10.2. It's a request from the Legion and I'm a vice president of the Legion, so I will skip that.
Thank you, Sherry. So item 4 is a public meeting under the Planning Act. D05-2024, zoning bylaw amendment application Hicks. The recommendation is that council receive the zoning amendment application D05-2024 Hicks, 503 Huffman Road for information purposes, and that a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw number 2014-744, change from rural zone to site-specific rural to be named later zone at 503 Huffman Road, that this be considered for adoption at the August 6th regular session of council. Can I get that motion on the floor, please? Doug and Sherry. So who's going to conduct the ceremony since our planner is unable to be here this evening? Are we just looking for public comment then at this point? So we have received this application for this zoning change. Is there anyone present who has any comments on this application? And if so, could you identify yourself? Anyone? No one has any comments on this application? Okay. And any comments from council on this application? It's very straightforward and simple change. So do we just vote on that motion then? So I'll just call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have some minutes to approve from previous meetings under Section 5, confirmation of the June 24th public meeting. The recommendation that the minutes of the public meeting of June 24th be adopted as circulated. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Doug and Rob, any discussion? Yes, Rob, go ahead.
Nothing, oh, pardon me, nothing crazy here, just a couple minor spelling changes. Ian Rhymes, I believe his name is Rhines, R-I-N-E-S, not M. Lynn Fenwick, I believe that is 2 N's in Lynn. Just minor stuff, I just happened to spot that.
Thanks, Rob. Got that, Randy? Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the regular council meeting of July 2nd, 2024. You get a motion to adopt those minutes. Wendy and Wenda, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. We have a number of delegations and deputations and presentations, and we don't often have a presentation, but we're presenting one of our firefighters with a great big thank you tonight. Is Leanne McCauley present? Do you want to come up, Leanne? I'm going to stand to read this, Leanne, because I think you deserve all the respect in the world. We want to take a moment to celebrate an achievement by one of our very own, Captain Leanne McCauley, a dedicated firefighter in Stone Mills Township. She's recently secured first place in the Northeast Region Classic at Exton, Pennsylvania, a testament to her exceptional skill, endurance, dedication to her craft. She joined Stone Mills Fire Department in January of 2013. During her time with the department, she's risen to the rank of captain, effective July 23. She's a strong advocate for mental health within our department and acts as a lead for our peer support team. She believes deeply that physical fitness is a critical requirement at the job of as the job of a firefighter. She's been a leader in encouraging others in our department to be more active and is always willing to help with recruit physical testing. Leanne has also been an instructor at various camps that encourage young women to join the fire service. She's been a role model to many women who are in or are just joining the fire service. She started competing in FireFit in 2018, and over the years has put in the dedication and hard work to achieve many awards and records in both Canada and the United States. Leanne, along with Lieutenant Nathan Maleska, recently presented to council on behalf of the Stone Mills FireFit team to host the 2025 regional event. This initiative reflects their commitment to bringing this prestigious event to our community, showcasing the talents and determination of our local firefighters. The Firefighter Challenge Championship Series, with its roots in a FEMA and US Fire Administration study from the late 80s, has grown into one of the most demanding and prestigious global firefighter pursuits, global sporting events. Known by ESPN as the toughest 2 minutes in sports, this competition pushes firefighters to their limits, stimulating real-life firefighting tasks while wearing full gear. It's really incredible. Leanne's consistent drive to improve, her resilience, and her remarkable physical and mental strength inspire not just her peers, but also the next generation of firefighters. Her accolades speak volumes. She holds multiple world records, including the co-ed over 55 tandem, age 50 to 59 tandem team, an age 50 to 59 hybrid relay team, age 50 to 59 co-ed hybrid relay team. She was inducted into the Lion's Den in 2021, a prestigious honor achieved by fewer than 100 firefighters each year. Leanne's achievements are a source of immense pride for Stone Mills Township. Her dedication and passion for her work serve as a beacon of excellence and an inspiration to us all. Please join me in congratulating Leanne McCauley on her outstanding accomplishments and wishing her continued success in her future endeavors. Yeah. Well, that was a great pleasure. Okay, 6.2, we had this food cycler program, pilot project, and we've got, yes, anyone who doesn't want to stay for the rest of the excitement. Good night. Yeah. Okay, yeah, the food cycler pilot program has been running for some months now, and we've got a report card here. Is there someone from the company that's going to present the results of the pilot? Oh, you're online. Okay, let me just get this up here. So, are you Farah Sheriff Dean?
Yes.
The floor is yours, Farah. Go ahead.
Perfect. I will be sharing my screen. So just one moment. And I will go through the results with you. Great. So, and everyone see my screen?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me virtually. My name is Laura Sherifine, and I am the municipal program coordinator with Food Cycle Science. And I'm here to present the pilot program results for the Food Cycle program in Stone Mills. And before we look at the results, I want to give you a quick recap of who we are. Food Cycle Science is a Canadian company based out of Ottawa. We are 100% focused on providing food waste diversion solutions using our innovative technology called Food Cycler. 2022 and 2023 were really big years for us. We were selected as finalists in Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, and I would like to acknowledge that your Food Cycler program is made possible in part due to the federal funding from this program. And as a company, today we're really proud to say that we are the trusted food waste diversion solution for over 115 municipal partners across Canada. And when Stone Mills joined, we were the 118th municipality to pilot the solution. So we really want to acknowledge and thank you for your willingness to trial an innovative solution to the long-standing problem that is food waste. So without further ado, with support from Impact Canada's Food Waste Reduction Challenge, your pilot program was going to include 50 participating households. The net cost to the municipality is $5,000 plus shipping and HST, and your program ran from December of last year to March of this year, where you used this truck for 12 weeks to calculate total waste diversion, and your residents completed a survey to provide the data and feedback that we're going over now. So we were able to collect 27 responses from the 50 participants, that's a 54% response rate. And the first two questions here are really to give you an idea of the importance of greenhouse gas reduction and waste reduction in your community. Both were rated quite high, being a 9 out of 10. And we asked your residents where their food waste went prior to using their food cycler. And some of your residents indicated that their food was going into the garbage, and whereas others were saying that they were able to compost all year, and for others that was only a possibility during the spring to summer months. So when we asked your residents why they didn't compost, 77.7% indicated that they chose not to due to concerns regarding animals like bears and raccoons. A number of your residents also reported concerns about odors, maintenance, and space, and these answers are very much in line with a lot of the data and feedback that we've collected in our municipal programs. And the food cycle really is a great solution for these issues because it's easy to use, odor-free, and the byproduct really does prevent those wildlife encounters. When you look at split of devices in your community, we're looking at about a 60-40 split between the SC30s and the Eco5s. And based on the data for diversion collected, your residents were running an average of 3.3 cycles per week on their SC30s and about 3 cycles per week on their Eco5s. So this is equivalent to about 259 kilograms of food waste per year per household being diverted using food cyclers in the community. And this translates to about 12.9 metric tons of food waste that would be diverted from your landfills every year with the 50 food cyclers in use. The 50 food cyclers will also be able to divert 16.8 metric tons of CO2e equivalents per year, which is about 19.7 acres of forest sequestered carbon every year. And when we asked your residents about the number of garbage bags they were generating prior to using their food cycler, your residents were generating about 1.18 bags. And after using their food cyclers, they were generating about 0.20 bags. So this translates to your residents being able to generate 0.38 fewer standard garbage bags per week, which is a reduction of 19.7 garbage bags per household per year. That will not be trucked to your local landfill. And when we asked your residents whether increased awareness of food waste motivated them to make less food, a large majority said that yes, it did, 59.2%. And we find that when people are able to manage their waste at home, they really become much more aware of how much food they're wasting to begin with. And we say the most effective waste diversion strategy is to not generate any waste. So the awareness that comes with this program is incredibly important. And while that's difficult to put into numbers, it is an added value that the solution provides and likely contributed to the reduction of garbage bags that I mentioned in the previous slide. So when we asked your residents if the municipality were to offer a program, food cycler program at low or no cost, 85% of your residents indicated that they thought that their friends and neighbors would participate in the program. And an overwhelming 88% of your residents would recommend the food cycler based on their own experience. So this slide is fairly self-explanatory, and it really speaks to the success of the program. 96.3% of your residents are going to continue using their food cyclers moving forward as a food-based solution. This level of participation really far exceeds any other organic waste management solution there is out there today. For example, here at Ottawa, where we have weekly curbside green bin pickup, we really only have a 57% participation rate. And when it comes to composting, which is available for everyone who has the space to do so, the rates of adoption have been fairly stagnant over the last few decades, and also isn't quite high across the municipalities we saw earlier. So this 96.3% participation rate really is encouraging and speaks to the willingness of the residents to adopt this solution. And overall, your residents rated the pilot 4.5 stars out of 5, with 70% of your residents rating it at 5 stars. And this really is a testament to all of the hard work and planning and the execution that you put into launching the pilot. And it included a couple of comments from residents really thanking the municipality for the opportunity. And this next slide here is a quick overview of some of the feedback and comments that we've received from residents. We think it's quite important to be able to share some of the constructive feedback and some helpful comments that we can learn from. And as a quick recap, we are looking at 12.9 metric tons of food waste being diverted from your landfills every year with the 50 food cyclers in your pilot. Your residents reported a reduction of 0.28 garbage bags per week, which is 19.7 bags per resident per year of food waste being diverted from your landfills, and 96% of your residents are going to continue using their food cyclers. So to just kind of give you a quick overview of what it looks like in the scale change with the food cycler program, Nelson in British Columbia is the first municipality to adopt the food cycler as a community level organics management solution. Some of the resources in there, in place there is a partnership with a local grocery store that hosts a carbon refill station where residents can come and access carbon refills for free. We also have a local repair program. We have a barefoot bin for residents to drop off their byproduct if they're not using it. We also have an e-waste recycling program and a comprehensive education resource program. So the opportunities and the options in terms of program expansion are endless and always something that we're happy to discuss with you that is of interest. And some next steps in the process, we have, in order to fully understand the life cycle of the food cycle organics program and to do the CV analysis of that, we have a emission calculation tool. It's a consultative tool that allows you to assess the impact that the reduction in GHG emissions has in your community and the continued impact it can have on your sustainability efforts. We also have new technology that has just launched last week. We have it's called the Eco3. It's a 3.5 liter model, so it's in between the SV30 and the Eco5, but it has the same robust running mechanism that you have in the Eco5, and it is smaller footprint than the SV30, so it works really great for smaller spaces, but people looking to have increased capacity. And as I mentioned, as one of our early implementation partners, you have first right of refusal for any further Impact Canada funding that comes through. And we just ask that you accept this presentation as information, and we're always happy to discuss any expansion questions or opportunities with you. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Farah? If not, yes, Sherry, go ahead.
Just a quick question, thank you. Do we know anything about the other, 23 households that do we know if they even used it or not, or we have no idea how to find that out?
Yeah, go ahead, Farah.
Yeah, I am assuming that they did use their devices, but they just didn't fill out the survey. I can also get in touch with staff members and we can look at who the individuals are and just make sure that we reach out to them and see if they have any feedback from their experience.
Thank you. That's actually a pretty good response rate for a survey in my experience. Usually it's less than a quarter. Anyone else? Can I get a motion to receive the presentation then? Krista Lee, seconder, Rob, any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks very much, Farah.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening, everyone.
Okay, our third delegation, well, I guess our second delegation, since the first one was a presentation, is Linda Adams with concerns about the tower at 4479 County Road 6. Linda, yes, there you are. You have 15 minutes to make your presentation. The microphone is on and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm in a quandary, really, to know why one willing landowner can accept an offer to have something that's posing a danger to a different landowner that's just across the road. That landowner lives a 10-minute drive away and is not affected by the consequences. I have anecdotes, I have expert quotes, I have stats. I'm not sure what is going to be required for someone to feel like their voice is being heard. So if we can advance to the slides. So the approval of the process, I have the letter from Forbes Brothers. Following the process that's been set out by the federal agencies responsible, if anyone has a health concern, they are to take it to Health Canada. But Health Canada states categorically that they do not consider precautionary measures, which is the concerns about the radio frequencies that are emitted from these towers, because they say there's no conclusive evidence of harm caused by exposure levels that are found. So we can go to the next slide. They say the electromagnetic radiation standard used by the FCC continue to be based on thermal heating, which was established in 1992. 5G came out in 2022. So we're basing 2-year-old technology on 32-year-old data. It's criteria that's 40 years old, and it's inapplicable. And when it was decided then, it wasn't with all of the compounding elements that are in the air at the same time. Next slide. Okay, we can skip this. So the Environmental Health Trust has a lot of information about this. And emphatically, children are not protected. I bought a farm 3 years ago. I would have never bought my property. I have of the best farmland in the township. I would have never bought it if I'd have been aware that a tower was going to go up across the road. I got a great barn. I've got a stone house. I don't want to live there if there's going to be a tower. I don't want my grandkids there. They sleep over quite often. I am a teacher. I am completely aware of the effects on children's behavior, on children's health with these radiomagnetic frequencies. And the children are not protected by Health Canada. They are not protected by the agencies that are responsible for this. They conclude the limit should be 100 times more protective because they're the most vulnerable. But even the rest of us are vulnerable. I can give an example. On the corner of Bedford and Desert Lake Roads, there was a tower erected 4 years ago. She was a very healthy woman that agreed to have the tower built a little bit farther than where I live from where the tower is going to be. And the tower is still there, and she died. She had turbo cancer. She was perfectly healthy when it went up. So we're not talking of some remote, obscure realities. So if we can go to the next slide. The wireless industry reaction features stonewalling public relations and hyper-aggressive legal action. It can involve undermining the credibility and cutting off the funding for researchers who do not endorse cellular safety. It's their hardball tactics that look a lot like 20th century big tobacco tactics that heighten the suspicion the wireless industry does indeed have something to hide. Next slide. So Leonard Hardell is an internationally recognized expert in this. There are very many names. I just took the most salient ones, and he emphasizes a moratorium is urgently needed on the implementation of 5G for wireless communication. We now have 5G for wireless communication. We should not wait to protect children's brains. The science is now clear and compelling, indicating wireless technology is harmful to health, especially to children. Wireless radiation is repeating the history of lead, tobacco, and DDT. Given the human, animal, and experimental science evidence, I assert that to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, the probability that RF exposure causes gliomas and neuromas is high. This is just from the top. There are pediatricians around the world that are speaking about this. The lobbying that is paid to the federal governments so that they can advance their agendas and that they can be given a carte blanche, clear way to it. They are negating people's concerns. So my only hope is at the municipal level that this proposal will not go forward. Next slide, please. The evidence indicating wireless is carcinogenic has increased and can no longer be ignored. This is also from Leonard. The World Health Organization International Agency for Research on Cancer were to meet a review of all the evidence. We believe the weight of it supports a new determination. This is emphatic. The wireless radio frequency radiation is a human carcinogen. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for my grandkids. I don't want that for people working in my barn or on my fields. Living nearby mobile phone base stations, which is what will go up across the road, increase the risk for developing headaches, memory problems, dizziness, depression, sleep problems. It affects skin, eyes, immune system, gene expression, bacterial antibiotic resistance, cognitive impairment, and brain tissue damage. Scientists are stating that non-ionizing radiation, there's two different kinds, can cause biological effects in every system of the body, including at the DNA level. We have all the evidence. It's being silenced. I'm not going to be silent. Next slide, please. When a new 5G tower is proposed and cell towers are an uninsurable risk, the first question to ask is, do you have insurance for damages from long-term exposure to the radio frequency radiation? Insurers themselves rank wireless cell tower and 5G radio frequency radiation, non-ionizing EMFs, as a high risk, comparing it to lead and asbestos. The shareholders are warned of this, but the people that are getting the products are not aware of it, including the residents that are powerless at stopping a tower from going across the road. EMF is defined by the wireless companies themselves as pollution. Next slide, please. T-Mobile is a telecom company. Negative public perception of and regulations regarding the perceived health risks relating to 5G networks could undermine the market acceptance of our 5G services. We, along with equipment manufacturers and other carriers, are subject to current and potential future lawsuits alleging adverse health effects arising from the use of wireless handsets and from wireless transmission equipment, such as cell towers. This is in the report that they sent out to their people. They're completely aware of the concerns that are making me want to prevent this tower from going up across the road. Next slide, please. Even in Europe, they're aware of it. There was a study in 2021, so again, 3 years old, found changes in blood-considered biomarkers predictive of cancers in residents that live near these cell antenna arrays, including leukemia, lung, and breast to begin with. Next slide. The 5G higher frequencies will be combined with the lower frequencies from the current networks that are already transmitting. So my concern is with the presentation. Their investigations show that there are no existing tower facilities within half a kilometer of their proposed location. If they're only considering half a kilometer, that's not even 10 times the height of the tower. They only made people aware that we're 120 meters from the tower. That's 3 times the height of the tower. They're not letting people know it's there. This is all underscoring their awareness and their indifference to the consequence of the money that can be made by having these towers. I do not want one across the road. Thank you very much for hearing this. I really appeal that that application will be denied. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Linda. Any questions or comments?
Are there questions?
Just hang on, Linda. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, you brought a lot of great information here. I noticed in your from your delegation, you mentioned that wireless companies consider it pollution themselves. I'm just curious where you found that. That's an interesting
I
statement
have all of the citations under them.
from your presentation, but can you bring that one up specifically? I did not spot that one as I read through this, and I wanted to just clarify.
If you
that.
want, I can send you.
That'd be great.
Okay,
Thank you.
Anyone else?
thank you.
Can I get a motion to receive Linda's presentation? Doug and Sherry, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And our fourth delegation is Andrea Lettner, winter venue for pickleball program. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Reeve, Deputy Reeve, and councillors. We are here, my fellow picklers behind me, to request your support in securing the upstairs room at the Tamworth Arena for the Stone Mills Winter Pickleball Program. I'm actually following up on some of the points from the firefighter, Leanne, as it relates to physical fitness. Our program is very physical, and it certainly helps keep all of us physically fit. We launched a summer program a couple of years ago in the summer of 2023. We had 3 sessions per week, and we had roughly 2,000 sign-ins over the entire summer program. This year, we expanded the program, the summer program. We have 5 sessions per week, and we had 2,000 sign-ins by July 1st, 2024. So the program is growing. People are liking it. People are attending it. It is very, very popular. And I tell you, probably about 80% of the folks, 90% are considered seniors in Stone Mills. So last year we had a winter program in the old arena in Napanee, and we all know what happened to that. We had to scramble, miss a month of pickleball, and we secured a location at the Lions Hall, the Lions Banquet Hall in Napanee. However, that was sold this summer, and the new owners are not amenable to renting out the space for anything. Banquet, pickleball, it doesn't matter. So we found our search for a new venue is not coming up with anything. And so we got to thinking as a group, and we got to talking to people who play hockey in the arena in the winter, to people who go to the public skating in the arena in the winter. And we asked them, is that upstairs room in use when you're here playing hockey or when you're here in public skating? And the overwhelming answer was no. Very rarely do we see the lights on and people in that room. So we prepared a proposal for the township, and we sent it in, and we said, you know, we'd like to use that room for the winter program. Our proposal said, we will run the program for you as volunteers. We'll collect the money for you and give it to you every week. We'll run it only when you have staff in the building, so when the building's open. And we'll run it around whatever events you have for that space. So basically, you know, the volunteers will do everything, and you guys will just collect the revenue each week. You're not going to make millions, but it's a form of exercise and socialization for your township residents. We were turned down, first with no explanation, just management said no. And then one of our volunteers here, she called the township, and she was advised, the gist of it was that we were turned down because that's not the designated use of the space. And when we were told that, we got to thinking, and we thought, you know, well, this is a really popular program. We think we could grow it and develop a winter program in here too, but we need some support and some flexibility on the part of the township. So we got together and we all agreed to talk to different members of council here and ask you to support our request to use that upper room in the arena for a winter program. One of the things we did was some research on other pickleball programs that are using banquet halls for their winter venues. So Napanee uses the Strathcona Center Banquet Hall, and it's actually their model that we're proposing we run our program on, where the volunteers run everything, collect the money, and just hand it to Napanee City Council or city employees every week. South Huron uses a banquet hall. Pickering uses a banquet hall in their recreation complex, which is exactly what we're requesting to do here. And Bath, they've actually come and talked to us. They have to move their winter program to Kingston due to lack of facilities. There's just nowhere to play in the winter. We feel the benefits of approving our request would be to build on the success of the summer program, to promote physical activity in this community. It enhances our social connections. We've all, you know, made new friendships through pickleball and really grown as a group, and would provide a very small revenue stream for the township. You know, it's a volunteer-run thing, and we feel very strongly that we'd like your support for it. Some of the questions though raised by our fellow pickleballers in Stone Mills were, though, I wanted to bring these to your attention. What do we have in Stone Mills? Tamworth, particularly for adults. The arena, winter hockey, is mainly younger generations, but hockey is not accessible to a lot of people for various reasons. The ball field, climbers, and skate park are all youth-oriented. Right now, seniors cram into the library Friday afternoons to play euchre. That is the only seniors program available. What else is there? So we're requesting you reconsider the winter venue denial and approve the use of the Stone Mills Recreation Center upper room for Stone Mills Pickleball winter venue. Again, it's been very successful, our program, and we're seeking a collaborative and creative solution with the township to continue our program. One of the things we did find in our research was a news announcement from the Ontario government, and they have what they call Seniors Active Lifestyle Center funding. And programs offered by municipalities can apply for this funding. It doesn't have to be a whole place. It can be just a program that you have. And they have said that they've had overwhelming success with SALC programs delivered by municipalities. And that's what we're asking you to do here, is deliver the pickleball program. And if you're concerned about money or funding, you can apply for it here and our program would qualify. So we put all the details in your package. They have a webinar that explains how to apply. And as well, the application date is September 12th, 2024 at 5 p.m. to apply for this funding. So I think it's an excellent opportunity and would help, in addition to the fees that we pay, fund the program. Are there any questions?
Questions for Andrea? Yes, Wendy, go ahead.
Hi.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to see the program's doing so well. I enjoyed it last summer before I wrecked my shoulder again. Not playing pickleball. I was under the understanding, though, a couple of years ago, and I don't know if this is still going on, but there was a relationship or a collaboration in the winter with the Tamworth Public School and a group of pickleballers. And I wondered if you had looked into that at all. I haven't heard that it's not going on, but they were playing there once or twice a week, I believe. And if anybody knows any information, please feel free to add it. But it was the Tamworth Public School. And it was done, because I looked at it then for Newburgh as well. And it had to be led not by the township, but by individuals such as yourself to approach the Limestone District School Board and ask for permission to use their gym.
We did last year.
Uh-huh.
So there are 2 schools, 4 schools in Stone Mills, 2 different school boards. They said that they have to have a custodian on site, that it's a minimum of $75 an hour. Our program is not big enough to afford that, to pay $150 for 2 hours worth of play. So last year when we ran our program, we had to pay $50 an hour in rent. We did 6 euchre nights that raised at least $300 each, and we still had a shortfall at the end of the winter program. But I think part of that reason is people had to drive all the way to Napanee to do it. But the school boards are not willing to run the program except for a couple hours at the end of the day. And we have 30 core people who want to play 3 to 4 times a week. And we have an unused space in the arena. Number 2, if we run it ourselves, everybody has to have Pickleball Canada membership to provide insurance. And someone has to be the accountant and run the books and open a banking account and all these other things. And it's quite an onerous, it's a lot of work. So we don't mind running the program, but we don't want to run all that side of it. And that's why we're hoping to get some support from our township.
Just visualizing that space up there, do you feel that that would accommodate 30 people?
So what we would do right now we have a drop-in program with 6 courts. So in our proposal to the township, and I have a copy of the letter here, I'll give it to you in a bit. What we suggested was we would have 2-hour slots when the building is open and that space is not in use. We would create a sign-up system where up to 8 people could sign up for a 2-hour slot, which is reasonable. Then 4 people are playing, 4 people are resting. And then it just mixes and mixes and mixes over the entire 2 hours. But there would be a number of slots available to people, residents of Stone Mills, not just 2 slots here, or like a 2-hour period here on this day and a 2-hour period here on that day. When we ran our program, our winter program last year, we had 4 nets at one point and we moved down to 3 at the end. People were going down south to Florida and weren't coming to pickleball. Or January, February, the weather's really bad. They don't want to drive all the way to Napanee. So that's what our experience was. So what our proposal moving forward is to develop the program and create these time slots with up to 8 people to sign up for each slot. And that would allow 30 people to play 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just wondering, Jake, do you have any information that you would like to share with us about this, or is this strictly Mr. Fenwick's preview? I'm really just curious as to why it was declined for not the designated space.
Through your worship, it came up at a manager's meeting. This has nothing to do with Al Fenwick. Came up at a manager's meeting and there was a long discussion and it was decided that that space was not traditionally used in a recreation circumstance and that it was inadequate for what they were asking. And that's how the decision was made. One thing though, I was just going to say that the thought that that space is closed and the lights are off during, public skating or whatever, that's not right. I mean, the place was designed so that if you had a kid skating, you'd go sit there and watch your kid in the heat. That space is not blocked off and the lights are out during. I mean, if the facility's open, then the lights are on and there's people sitting in there. So anyways, just wanted to
That
point
was
that
just
out.
anecdotal.
Yeah, it's not true.
I think Wendy had a comment.
Hello, thanks for coming out. I do agree totally with you. We do need to look at more for seniors. Pickleball, you do have a lot of people. If it was to get approved in the upstairs arena, you're looking at one court, correct?
One court.
And are you looking at days and evenings and weekends? or-
Whenever it is open, we'll work around their schedule.
Mhm. So my suggestion would be, we do have a recreation. I'm not making a motion, I'm just making a suggestion. We do have a recreation committee that maybe we could table this and try to get a recreation committee having a meeting in September, and maybe once we sit down and hear more from Jake, and we could bring a report back with all the material that has been presented tonight, instead of just so it doesn't get lost. It's just a suggestion.
Well, if you don't want it to get lost, you're going to have to make a motion. And
wanted to see if anyone
Yeah.
agree with me.
okay, I'm not
Sorry.
demanding that you do. Share. Jason, you wanted to have a comment at some point?
Just want to also highlight that we are actively looking for increased utilization in that space by having a RFP out for having the canteen open more hours and more available during the operations of the building. So I just want to highlight that might be a conflict if we are trying to operate a fully functioning canteen at the time that the hours of the building are open with activities in there. That might pose some additional challenges.
Yeah, that's a fact. Sherry?
So the main thing I wanted to mention that we have to be careful is we just turned down another group for not the use that it's intended, which is a canteen. So I'm not sure how it would go over if we allow another group to use it when we've just said no to the other folks. I don't know how well that would sit. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I have to admit, this feels really awkward because I just spoke with you folks yesterday, but part of the oath we take sitting in this chair is to be open and honest and transparent to ratepayers and also to council. And again, now I wish I hadn't even spoken to you yesterday because I wouldn't be sitting here like this, but I had come up with an option of the Legion and talked to them, and they would be fully thrilled to work with you on a pay-per-use thing. It wouldn't be, you wouldn't be paying, I don't think, any more than you are now. But I feel like you're saying that, if we don't approve this, that you won't be able to play pickleball. But anyway, the Legion folks did say they would be, like, there's very few hours a week that anyone's using that space, and they'd be thrilled to work with you. So again, that's really awkward, but that's the truth.
Let's see, I've got Rob hasn't spoken on this one yet. I'll get back to you, Wendy. Go ahead, Rob.
It's pretty straightforward. First of all, I think it's fantastic that this has gone so well. It's just great to hear. It really is. And I don't want to take anything away from it. I think it's just great. One of the things to Jason's point, we have an active request for proposal out there right now, and we are really hoping to utilize that canteen space. Unfortunately, the timing is a bit poor because nowhere in that RFP is it described that they would be potentially having to share the outside banquet area space with a pickleball team or group. And then it's not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that I could see that being oh, by the way, is kind of hard to do on a request for proposal at this point. It's really unfortunate, the timing. The other thing too is a person who might be firing up that canteen might be wanting to put on some sort of special events and utilize that space to try and pay for their leasing fees and so on. And we don't know what their intention may be. So it's difficult to modify that at this point. I don't think we even can. And we're running out of time to get that space occupied for the hockey season. So again, I'm not making a point out of the way other than the timing is challenging.
Doug, go ahead. Sorry, Wendy. Doug, yeah. I haven't forgotten you.
Well, I would just suggest, I mean, we've all been contacted by the group, and he did a very good job, I think, of talking to all the members of council. And I think we all agree that it's a worthwhile endeavor. The challenge here is you've got to find a space or spaces, okay? And there's two options. Another thing that hasn't been mentioned tonight, and that's the fall, because you're out of there as soon as hockey starts.
August 26th.
That's right. So I just suggest before we say yes, no, or do anything like that, that we look at what spaces we have. We've filed this for a few hours and then look at what spaces we have that's available and get back to see if there's any way that we can work with them.
Yeah, we would really love the township support. And just so you know, pickleball is a very low impact sport. The balls are non-marking. The shoes that we wear are non-marking. We played in a banquet hall last year and we didn't damage anything. They had plastic chandeliers that were just above our heads, and we knocked some plastic baubles off, and that was it. No damage to the walls, no damage to the floors, no damage to the lighting, the chandeliers. So and we it's said in our proposal too that, if there are other things going on, if your canteen is up and running, we'll take down the net and put it away. So it's just-
Wendy, you had something there?
I was just making another suggestion after I heard Sherry talk about the Legion. And is there some way that the municipality could say our pickleball people are going to go to the Legion, so it's under the insurance of the municipality? I don't know because it isn't the building, but the Legion also has insurance, and usually municipality might have some insurance to cover as well. So could that maybe be a win-win? That's something that maybe Jake could look into, or the recreation committee, or whatever.
Okay.
However we bring back that information.
Yeah.
But that might be something.
We're getting into the weeds a little bit. And we got a heavy agenda here. Crystal, did you have one more thing?
Well, I do think there's kind of consensus among all of us that we kind of need to revisit this, maybe with some other options. Sherry's mentioned the Legion, we have other halls. And I think Wendy's right that we kind of maybe, so you're out in August, like we want to move by this quickly for the winter, but hopefully for the autumn too. I think that we definitely, as council, are behind this, and I think we should work to help find a solution.
Jake.
Yeah, just a quick few points. The first point is I don't really see the conflict with the RFP that's out. The RFP is strictly limited to the canteen. Anything bringing more individuals into the arena probably isn't going to hurt somebody looking at this RFP. I doubt if there was a few people, playing pickleball, that would be something that would they wouldn't be open during that time. I'm guessing that you wouldn't want this pickleball time during other events. You'd want to offset, which could happen. Al is there at times during the winter when there's nobody playing hockey. I mean, it could potentially be okay. The second thing I wanted to point out was we went through this insurance before when we were building the pickleball program, so that we built the pickleball program to basically be like public skating in the sense that, you know, pay as you play, you show up, you pay, you go on the ice, that sort of thing. And the pickleball group didn't want to get their own insurance, so we kind of had to work through that process. So this new pickleball program would have to work through that same process, in the sense that it couldn't be just a pickleball group with no insurance there playing pickleball. It would have to be, you know, available to the public for walk-ins if you want to play, meaning that they couldn't pre-schedule that 4 individuals were coming for that day, that sort of thing. The answer is that they could get their own insurance, and then they could play wherever they want any other day. Potentially, you talk to the Legion. I have no idea what their insurance would say. The last thing that I wanted to point out was, it seems a little ironic that I'm drafting facility bylaws to restrict damage to one facility, while potentially opening up another facility, you know, to, you know, recreation going on in glass around there and stuff like that. Anyways, I don't know if any members of council see kind of the irony in that, but anyways.
So I'm going to have to move things along here. Could I suggest that someone might want to make a motion that this issue be brought to the Recreation Committee, and that Jake consider Andrea Lettner's presentation, and that we help the group to move their program along in whatever fashion that may be. Can I get a motion to that effect? Wenda, you had your hand up first. Sherry is seconding that. So what do you need here?
Can I just, can whoever is making the motion just read what their motion is going to be, just so we have clarity at the staffing level?
I move that the Recreation Committee consider options to support the pickleball program. And I would think we would be looking at the fall for a resolution to be brought back to council.
Doug?
Can I just ask for an amendment of that instead of the Recreation Committee, it be council and staff?
Oh, sure.
Because we're looking at facilities that the Recreation Committee doesn't have control.
I would like to amend the motion to include that.
It also speeds it up, because then we don't have to have a Recreation Committee meeting, then a council meeting. So is that agreeable to you, Sherry? Okay, is that all you need, Brandy? Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, Ray.
No, you must stay. Could I get a motion to receive that delegation? Rob and Doug, all in favor? That's carried. Thanks very much. So just for clarification, Wenda, that group at Tamworth School did continue. I was part of it. There's only 8 or 9 of us, Monday and Wednesday afternoons, basically while school is just getting out and the janitor is still there. My impression with these folks is they want to be playing evenings. I'm not sure, but there's no more room in that group in any case. And talk to the Limestone Board. I don't know why they don't want to encourage it. Yeah, they don't. Okay, moving along. Bylaws and resolutions, 7.1, 2024 XXX, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2014-744. This is further to the public meeting we had at the start. Is that correct, Randy? On 503 Huffman Road? Yes. So this would amend our zoning bylaw to change from RU zone to a site-specific RU zone, and a site-specific rural RUYY zone, XXYY. 503 Huffman Road, that this be enacted and passed, and the Reeve clerk be authorized to sign and seal. Can I get a motion to that effect? Doug and Wenda, any discussion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Chrysalie, did you have something?
Only just one really simple.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I know Jason's not here, but what does RUYY? Like, what is that difference?
Just a number identification.
Okay.
Yeah,
so-
it hasn't been actually numbered until it's passed, then it will be numbered.
Oh, so it'll be RU dash.
That's a pl-
Okay, because I
that-
was like, is it from RU to RU1? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you for
no, that's
clarifying.
just, those are just placeholder
not
letters.
sure.
Yep, okay. Anything further? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. 7.2, storing zoning bylaw amendment application D08 2023-61, 61 Ingleby Road, Part Lot 4, Concession 3. This came out of a previous public meeting. The recommendation is that the report from Arcadis, our planning consultant, be received. Bylaw, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw number 2014-744, be enacted and passed, and that the Reeve and clerk be authorized to sign and seal. Any questions or comments on this one? Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Sherry and Wendy, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Further, this is simply a road widening bylaw 2024. This is 7.3, being a bylaw to establish certain lands as a municipal highway. Recommendation that this bylaw, being a bylaw to establish certain lands as a municipal highway, be enacted and passed, and that the Reeve and clerk be authorized to sign and seal. You've looked at the map. You're familiar with the procedure. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Rob and Wenda, any discussion? All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Staff reports. CAO White, localizing communal servicing project, CMHC Housing Supply Challenge. The recommendation is that the correspondence from the Eastern Ontario Regional Network requesting support for the localizing communal servicing project, CMHC Housing Supply Challenge, be received for information. Jason, do you want to speak to this?
Nothing much to add to the report other than this was presented to County Council. If you wanted to take a look at the presentation through YouTube, out of that meeting was a recommendation to send this correspondence out to all the member municipalities seeking for additional awareness and potential support. This is not two of the member municipalities, I think, received it. One responded with amendments and recommendations on only participating in a data submission piece, but not necessarily in a full participation in communal servicing. So this is just putting this in front of council for consideration and for their information.
I mean, I think we should receive it for information purposes. I have grave concerns with it because I don't know enough about it. To be quite honest with you, I don't know, is it a communal system like we had in Tamworth, which I fully support, large septic systems? Or is it some other system like lagoons and that? We don't know that yet, what it is, or I don't know that, if I'm maybe wrong in my thinking. So until I get more information, I can't support it. So I think we just receive it for our information.
And that's all we're being asked to do this evening, Doug. I think if you go back to the county council meeting, I forget if it was this, it wasn't the past one, I wasn't there, maybe the previous one. There's a presentation from the fellow from EORN on these systems. There's one in Frontenac right now at a housing development there, or it's being put into effect. And it's basically a self-contained sewage treatment system and water system.
So
Yeah, Jason, go ahead.
EORN's doing the research and trying to create a template for this, and then to provide a sort of a playbook for municipalities to follow to establish a pseudo utility corporation that would then manage these mid-size communal servicing options. I just wanted to highlight that there is a link in the report to the exact time of that presentation for those who wanted to see how they were proceeding with that.
Yes, Crystal Lee.
Yeah, just one comment. I was talking to Doug about this, and I was saying I was exciting, but he's right that there is a lot that I don't yet know. But my understanding for what's exciting for us as a rural communities allows us to have some housing densification without servicing of water. And I think that's very exciting when it comes to trying to put people in our hamlets and instead of like in all the fields. So
Yeah, there's all kinds of upsides to it. Did I get a mover and seconder for that one, Brandy? Sorry. Can I get a mover and seconder to receive Doug and Sherry? Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Our treasurer's statement of operations for the second quarter, April to June. A recommendation is that council receive the second quarter statement of operations report showing expenses as it relates to the 2024 budget prepared by the treasurer. Can I get a mover and seconder to receive this report, please? Wendy and Rob. Did you wish to add anything to this report, Anita?
Through you, Reeve Wise, nothing further to add. Happy to answer any questions, but it's more of a higher level oversee compared to the budget.
Right. Yes, Rob, go ahead.
Through you, John. Yeah, this is great. I was going through this. It's very interesting, actually. Now, I'm curious. The taxation budget to actual is almost bang on, but as we go along through the rest of it, it looks to be like year to date. So I'm just curious. I know we haven't collected. Have we collected all of our taxes for the 2024 year based on this already?
Through you, Reeve Wise, when we bill or levy the taxes, they're brought into our revenue. So as we billed in late June for the July installment that shows as recording as received, then it's set up as a receivable.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Wendy, go ahead.
Sorry, Anita, I was going to send you these questions and I did, but it didn't send. I live at work in a lead-lined walls. Emails just don't go through lead, apparently. So I hope you can answer these questions. They're just pretty general. The phrase conditional grants, federal government, what would be a conditional grant from the federal government?
Through you, Reeve Wise, that would be some grants that we get for our public works. Generally, our OCIF, CCBF is our federal, OCRF is our provincial. They're grants that we receive from the government for our road work, mostly.
Okay. Next question, just clarification on the phrase transfers from our own funds. And I found the quite a difference, and I guess that's because some of the projects that we're needing to transfer those funds haven't yet sort of occurred.
So through you, Reeve Wise, transfers from our own funds is coming from reserve or reserve funds that have been allocated through the budget for capital projects. If it has already been allocated or the project has been done, the reallocation of the funds have been taken to year to date, and we're just waiting for other ones to complete in order to do the transfers.
Thing is, the very last statement is net revenue in brackets expenses. I never think of revenue and expenses appearing in the same line. So I'm just wondering what that line means. The very last bottom line of the document, net revenue in brackets expenses.
It's the difference between the revenue expense. So the budget, we have a balanced budget. So hopefully the revenue and the expense equal to zero. Currently, our year to date is we have received more revenue and less expense as of today, or as of the end of June, because this is for the second quarter. So that's generally projects that are happening through the summer and the fall and will be affected in the next quarter. You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, Anita. Did I get a mover and seconder for that? I did. Good. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Township Clerk Brandy Teeple is on for our procedural bylaw review. The recommendation is that council receive the report entitled Procedure Bylaw Review Update, and that the attached draft bylaw be brought back to the September 3rd meeting, and that the notice of intent to pass an updated procedure bylaw be hereby provided and posted to the township's social media pages. Can I get that motion on the floor, please? Doug and Sherry. Brandy, do you want to speak to this?
Nothing further to add to the report, unless there's any questions. I would, if there's any minor amendments, we can just include them by resolution. However, if there's any glaring issues or topics that want to be reconsidered, I would recommend that the report be received and possibly set up another committee of the whole. But again, that's for any major changes or updates or glaring issues.
Any comments on the procedure bylaw or questions? Yes, Doug, go ahead.
I just commend Randy for getting this done, and I found it a great exercise to actually spend the time to go through it. Refreshing my memory in a lot of cases, and especially in the case of 5.7D and 15.8, I found information there that I wasn't aware of, so I believe it would serve everybody well to refresh their memory with this. And there was a few smaller issues which Brandy and I were able to work with. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else? I agree with Doug. It was a useful exercise to go through this, particularly the same section that you cited, Doug. It's interesting, the comments about the delegations. And I just would like to clarify that. Now I'm just looking, I didn't make a note here. So 5.7 is conduct of public and deputations. Maybe I saw it in another section. It says somewhere, Brandy, that that council is not to debate with people making a delegation. Did I misread that somewhere, or I'm just trying to see where I saw that?
Through Reef-wise, that would be correct. If council wanted to question any delegations, it should come through staff report to show the other side of the coin of the reasoning that staff had, declined the example tonight with the pickleball, which council has done. It would be referred to staff to kind of show the other card of the reasonings why something was going against what a delegation was saying. And the intent of council meetings is to conduct the business of council to make decisions and not to engage in debate, because usually when you're in a debate with someone, you're debating something, you don't really come to a conclusion at the end of it. Is my experience with it. So, and it's standard practice among other municipal procedural bylaws that it's not an engage in debate. You can ask questions and clarification, but you're not going back and forth of one side versus another.
Right. And I can see some of the advantages of that, but the disadvantage would be in a situation where maybe incorrect information is being presented at a delegation. Do we just let that stand, or how do we deal with misinformation in a delegation's presentation?
Through you, Reeve-wise, that's a tough question. I mean, you can always request a report from staff to present the other side of it from the township's perspective. If there's anything out of orders, like speaking ill about another level of government, which is in the procedure bylaw about committee members, staff, other council members, council can raise a point of a point of order, and that it's not in compliant with the procedure bylaw. The purpose of a council meeting isn't to sit there and listen to other people be berated. It's not productive of a meeting. So I would say those are your options if that provides clarification.
Okay, yeah, it's a bit of a gray area for me, but I can live with it. Anyone else on the procedure bylaw at this point? Yes, Jason.
I just want to add through you, Reeve-wise, that part of the taking it back and allowing staff to provide a report is many times, and we've seen it in recent history, there's a lot of information that's presented at the last minute, and staff and the township is not able to provide a comprehensive and fulsome response in the moment. And so being in a position to receive the information and collect it and hear the delegation and then clarify it is the first step. But in the moment, the second step isn't trying to, again, it can be interpreted as a debate by trying to respond immediately. So taking that information back and allowing it for it to be properly digested in the response is probably the most prudent approach to incomplete or misunderstood information.
Certainly, questions can go a long way to clarifying or even correcting a presentation if a question is phrased properly. Wenda, go ahead.
So just as an example, Brandy, just so I can understand what you're referring to on a different slant. Tonight, when I was talking with the lady about the pickleball, and I turned and asked Jake, Mr. Detler, if he had any response to that. Should I have just simply said, you know, could I make a motion, or could I ask that we ask staff to come back with a report explaining why, or re-exploring this? Would that have been a better option following this procedural bylaw than actually putting Jake on the spot, like at the meeting?
Through Revise, I mean, that's a good question, and referring it to staff to bring back to another council meeting allows staff to come together and put their thoughts together and provide a response that's not just in the moment. When you're being asked questions on the fly, sometimes that can't be communicated properly, and then there's gaps in information that could have been relayed. So,
Which doesn't preclude the staff from, and Jake did this tonight, from volunteering a comment. That's perfectly legitimate. But I think it is difficult for staff to respond on the fly. I mean, the pickleball issue is fairly simple. It's not really pinning anybody down, and staff are perfectly welcome to say, I really can't comment at this time. But a complicated thing like, a development question or something like that, it's really pointless to try to get a staff comment. And I've been as guilty of that as anyone else. And it's led to a lot of gaps in information and confusion. So are we happy with the motion that's on the floor here to go ahead and adopt this bylaw? Yes, go ahead.
One minor thing, John, and I'm guilty of that. I don't know. My volume was turned off on my phone. I have no idea why Bixby came on. It must have been something you said when you were doing your presentation. I'm like, you silly device. But it doesn't necessarily need to be in the procedural bylaw, but maybe it should. That right at the beginning of the meeting, we advise everybody to make sure that their electronic devices are either turned off or on mute or whatever. It was embarrassing for me right there, and I have never heard it do that before. So you just never know. So I don't know if that needs to be written in or if it's just something we need to make it our own, but just a suggestion.
I thought I did read something in there about the electronic devices. Is that not correct, Brandy?
Through Revise, yes, it is included in there. We are looking at enhancing our communications at the beginning of council meetings to remind those in attendance to mute their phones, not to be disruptive, and to provide notice that the meetings are being live streamed. So if you've noticed, we've started including some communication on the doors. So that's something that we can look at doing as well, is posting signs to mute devices.
And could we have that as a standard announcement on the agenda package so that I won't forget? I remember at Conservation Authority, do they still do that? Yeah, that's always a request at the start, is that you turn it off unless you're an emergency services worker or something like that. So any further? Yes, Crystalie, go ahead.
I'll bring it up now, then I'll put it to bed. I just thought the idea of, so I'm in favor with, after a certain amount of time, we remove the videos from public, but maybe we should just put them private. And then they're there in the future if they're ever needed. But I also won't push on that. I've pushed enough.
Anything further? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, 8.5, this is under Development Services. Jason is not with us this evening, Jason Sands. This is the tower to which our resident Linda spoke earlier. The recommendation is that council hereby resolves that it has no objection to the proposed telecommunication tower as submitted by FB Connect on behalf of Explore Incorporated, located at 4479 County Road 6. The manager of development services be authorized to provide a municipal concurrence letter. Can I get a motion to put that on the floor? Sherry, your seconder. Rob, any discussion? Yes, Wendy, go ahead.
It was really nice to have that presentation earlier that, or the delegation regarding the tower. And I've done some research on it, as we all probably have. And what I'm coming to is there's not enough research yet there is not enough research yet to support these 5G towers. And so I think council maybe needs to do a little more research, along with what our previous presenter suggested, before we could vote on this, because I'm not comfortable voting in favor of something that I feel I need to do a little more digging, particularly if this entails putting a ratepayer at risk, or at a questionable risk, I guess you could say. So is it possible to delay this vote on this tower?
If that's your wish, you can make a motion to that effect. I'm asking if there's support for the recommended motion here. So you're not supporting it.
No, not at this time.
Yeah. Did I get a mover? Sherry, did you moved it? Is there a seconder for Sherry's motion to put this on the floor? Councillor Fenwick? Sorry, I didn't see your hand. Okay, so you're just simply speaking against the motion. Any further discussion? Yes, go ahead, Krista.
Yeah, I know Jason's not here, but I am curious about what the process is like and what is the role of the municipality in these kinds of decisions. And I personally think, like, a lot of our public infrastructure should be done in a more democratic way, which is like, asking a community where they think something might go rather than kind of imposing it upon somebody. And so I would side with kind of what Wenda is saying at this time.
Any further comment? Yes, Doug. Oh, Brandy, did you want?
I was just going to bring to council's attention that we do have the applicant on behalf of ExploreNet available to answer questions. And she can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that the municipality isn't the final approval authority. We just provide a letter that we either support it or not, and that it would be the federal or provincial authorities that provide the approval of the tower.
Yeah, it's the federal authority. Doug, did you have a comment?
Basically, I was going to say the same thing. My past experience is, doesn't matter what we say. We have objected in the past to towers, one in the enterprise area a number of years ago. And the federal government, unfortunately, follows their own rules. I'll say it that way. Situation, so they disregard our comments. But it is concerning, but I don't think it matters which way we vote. The federal government will go ahead.
It's certainly been our experience in the past. And was there anyone else wanted to comment at this point? Yes, Sherry, go ahead.
I was just going to highlight something in the recommendation, is that the proponent has met all the obligations they were to meet for it to happen. So it would be really hard for us to have any say, like you just said.
We basically have no say. All we can do, in my understanding, is either support or decline. If we decline, it goes ahead anyway. It's all up to Industry Canada, or whatever the current name of the federal ministry is, whether that tower goes in or not. It's similar in jurisdiction to airfields. We have an issue in the township with a private airfield, noise from planes to residents. We have absolutely no say in that. That all comes down to Transport Canada. Krista Lee, did you want to comment? Yeah. Yeah, the applicant wants to speak, but they're not on the agenda. I'll consider having the applicant speak once I hear everything from council. So who was next? Krista Lee, were you next?
Yeah, just kind of a note that comes up in this report, and it's come up at some other meetings, and it's something that we really do need to look at, which is our bylaws around our communications and public notice, because again, our public notice is in the Napanee Beaver, but that newspaper is not delivered here. And so this is really a gaping hole in our responsibility to inform the public, is that our communication and geography are not exactly lining up at this time. So I just wanted to make a note of that. It is something that we're going to have to move on.
Yeah, it's on our agenda. It is in the paper. I'm not sure what else we can do, but that's a point that we are going to have to deal with. James, did you have your hand up?
I'm just the intermediary here.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Rob, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to let you know, I do sympathize with you. The tower that went up in Enterprise is only less than a kilometer from my home. I've lived there all my life, as most of my family has. So I got a lot of calls about that. I've reviewed this, and the situation I see is that regardless of personal preference or choice, whatever, the obligations have been met. And sometimes you're in that position where unfortunately, I don't see any reason to say no. It's not necessarily a vote in support, but it's difficult to deny. So regardless of whether we have a choice or not, and whether it's going to go ahead or not, the laws, the rules, the regulations have been met. Unfortunately, I'm looking for a reason to say no, and I just unfortunately cannot find one, regardless of how I personally feel about the matter.
Anyone else? We're not obliged to support this.
If I can answer, when I had the public meeting with Forbes Brothers, I asked the process, and she said, "You're going to waste your time if you appeal to Health Canada." She said, "And if the township says we have people that are opposed to this, that does carry weight." That came from the woman that was at Forbes Brothers.
Yeah.
She said they do not have to put it forth, and if they do put it forth, then they still go through, but it's registering an opposition.
Yeah, that may be. I don't pretend to understand the workings of the federal bureaucracy. That's simply what we've been told in the past. This is basically a formality to apply to the township for approval, and that our yes or no carries virtually no weight. So it's up to council. I have a mover and seconder. Is there any further discussion? Does council want to hear from the proponent? Yeah. Okay. Is she online then? Yeah. So Sarah Duncan, can you hear me? Yes, I can. You might have to turn up your volume a little bit if you can do that, or can we do that? Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll all be very quiet. You go ahead. You have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you.
Oh, that's good. That sounds great. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yes, I understand that your planner is
Thank you, Sarah. Any questions for Sarah? Okay, I'm sorry, Linda, but this part of the meeting is not an open discussion. Yeah, your delegation was your chance to speak, and you made a very excellent delegation presentation. Anything further from council? We have a motion on the floor. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Manager of Public Works and Emergency Services, Emerald Ash Borer. The recommendation is that the report entitled Emerald Ash Borer be received and that council direct staff to allow for tree replacements in the 2025 budget for trees that have been removed in our urban areas and parklands. Can I get a mover and seconder, please? Wendy and Crystal Lee, our manager of Public Works, is not here this evening to answer any questions, but if there are questions, they can be passed on to the department. Anybody got any questions or comments? Yes, Crystal Lee, go ahead.
Just one comment. I would have to get back to Quinte Conservation on this. It came up the last meeting, but there was looking to be maybe a joint application for funding for tree planting across municipalities. And my first thought was, well, we've got all these emerald ash borers. As you said, they were basically the predominant tree put in after the 98 ice storm. And so that ain't looking too good for us. And so I will reach out and find out more about this potential like joint collaboration because it's for a new tree planting only. And that may be, there may be something there. I don't know if it would be in 2025, that we may be able to tap into to replace those trees out of, I don't know if it was a federal funded program or not, but I'll find that out and I will share that with council.
I think that's a great idea because I know my neighbors had 2 trees replaced. They were ash, and I just noticed the other day they're both infested. And I think a lot of the trees that were planted on the township right-of-ways were ash. And I think it was a federal program because it was for both Quebec and Ontario. So that would be good to find out. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The automatic aid agreement with Greater Napanee, the recommendation is that council receive the report and the council authorize the Reeve and clerk to enter into an agreement with the town of Greater Napanee to receive and deliver fire protection services in accordance with the Fire Protection and Prevention Act. And James, did you want to speak to this?
Through you, Wise, there's nothing more really to add to the report. It's just a simple renewal of the agreement that we had with some minor amendments.
Okay. Any questions for James? So sorry, I didn't get a mover and seconder. Moved by Doug, seconded by Sherry. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thanks, James. 8.7, Chief Building Official Detler. This is regarding facility cleaning financial information report. Recommendation that council accept the information report entitled Facility Cleaning Financial Information, and the council instructs staff to create and release a request for proposal for facility cleaning services as described within this staff report. I get a motion to get this on the floor, please. Sherry and Doug, thank you. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, through your worship, as the report says, in the May 8th meeting, some more financial information was requested that I come back and maybe with some suggestions on, there was a lot of talk on having a cleaning deposit in place to kind of deal with. Well, the entire discussion was about facility use. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that I've spoken with a cleaner and it would be a lot more expensive for the facilities that the cleaner of, we'll say, 3 different facilities. There are some facilities cleaned by an independent contractor in Enterprise, and another facility, the multi-purpose room and the second floor viewing area, that would be generally cleaned by arena staff. The contractor that does the 3 facilities said that it would be just more money if he had to clean it after every single use. And that's what I was trying to get at. The last time we did an RFP was 2020, and maybe yeah, if you wanted to bring solid numbers back, my suggestion in this report is that we would do another RFP and make it crystal clear that you would be, providing services after every single, whether that's the Lions Club or a birthday party, and then it would be variable amounts of bookings per week, and that's what recommendation in the report is.
Thanks, Jake. Any questions or comments? Yes, Doug.
Jake, could we just very simply just take the number of rentals, for example, Newburgh Hall, and just, do a multiplication factor and see what that would look like? To me, I agree with you. I think it would be, especially a hall like Newburgh that's used heavily by small groups. The cost would go up astronomically to clean it 5-6 times a week. But we should see numbers that would somehow give us an understanding.
Yeah, they're through your worship. So in Newburgh Hall, for instance, the report says that we've for the first 6 months we paid cleaning services $3,892.32, and I don't have any exact multiplication of what that would be, but I guess in the report and in my talk with the contractors supplies cleaning for that Newburgh Hall, that it would be significantly more. So.
I know this is a real pickle, this one. Somebody goes in and uses the hall for 2 hours for a child's birthday party, and then you clean the hall that was relatively clean before. If you don't do that, then you're taking the chance the next person who rents that facility, who has the right to a clean facility, gets bathroom facilities have been used by 10 or 15 people, which is not fair to them. Difficult. My suggestion might be classification 1 through 4. And we do have on the rental agreements what type of activities taking place in the facility. And that would be where staff would say, okay, it's a full day session. That would be a class 1. It's a 4-hour thing. That'll be class 2 and so on. And therefore there are certain requirements for the cleaner as to when they look at the event, they would say, okay, it's a class 4, which means really all I'm doing is cleaning the bathrooms. And that's my main concern. One where the kitchen facility is not being utilized. That could be on there as well. They don't have to worry about it. That sort of thing where it's just an easier system so they know what is expected of them, and then that would keep the costs low and they're not cleaning things that are already clean. But mainly it's about the bathrooms. But it's just one of those things, creating a system that functions as efficiently as possible, and that was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah, through your worship. Yeah, I think some sort of classification system like that is something that could happen. And I just want to bring up that kind of the main point of all this was so that there would be somebody literally in the facility to kind of look at, if there was damage done that didn't get reported, kind of thing, which was kind of a big part of the discussion in May 8th when we had this facility use bylaw draft come to this committee of the whole meeting we had.
Anyone else? So when are you thinking of, assuming this passes, Jake, of putting out this RFP?
Yes, through your revise. I was planning on doing it as soon as possible. So we'll say we would get it out, and release it similar to what we have in the canteen in the next few weeks. That was my thought.
Okay, so what would your hope be in terms of bringing it back to council then? What's your time limit for the RFP, or have you thought about that yet?
Yeah, through revise, we have a 40-day RFP procedural bylaw, so that really slows things down. So it would be, quite a bit of time before I could come back with actual results. We're talking at least a month and a half.
Okay, well, we've survived this long, barely. So yeah, that sounds fine. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Jake. Committee board reports and minutes. Anyone who's on another committee? That would be you, Crystal Lee. Have anything for us from Quinte Conservation that you wanted to highlight?
really it would have only been that tree program, but I actually didn't receive the email that went out, so I have to like specifically request it because it just came up in discussion. But that's one that definitely I think we should try and get involved with.
I agree. Thank you. Items for consideration. 10.1, Centerville Agricultural Society, who run the Centerville Fair. Request for funding. In the 2024 budget, council approved $12,000 for council donations. To date, council has spent about $2,500 of that. There's also approximately $500 that has been approved, however, has not come out of this budget to date. It's estimated that $9,000 remains available in this council delegation budget. Recommendation is that council provide direction. What are your wishes? You have a letter from the Agriculture Society. Does anyone wish to make a motion? Wenda, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we make a donation of $2,500 to the Centerville Agricultural Society in keeping with our donation last year.
And Chris Lee, you second that? Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. The fair will carry on. The second one, 10.2, is from the Legion branch. Sherry has declared conflict on this one. You don't have to leave or anything, Sherry. The recommendation is that council provide direction. We have a request from the Legion. Does anyone wish to speak to this? Doug?
First of all, I have a question of our treasurer. Did we have any money left over at the end of last year from our donations?
Through you, Reeve Wise, I believe it was $200. Approximately.
The reason for asking that question is I just wondered what room we had in our budget, because I think this chairlift is a very worthwhile thing for the residents, especially the senior residents of the township, being it's a second source facility. I would like to give them $2,400 or $2,500. I just don't know where we're going to find it.
Well, we just approved 2,500 out of 9,000. That leaves us $6,500.
I'll make that motion.
$2,500. Wenda, you second that? Any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Association of Municipalities of Ontario Joint Health Resolution Campaign. There's a big bunch of whereases and therefores here. Basically, it comes down that our council urged the province of Ontario to recognize a physician shortage in the township and fund healthcare appropriately and ensure every Ontarian has access to physician care. I can't imagine anyone not supporting this request. Can I get a mover and seconder? Krista Lee and Wendy, any discussion? All in favor? Yes, sorry, Krista
Just
Lee.
one quick note from a headline about the lack of doctors that I actually read that in Niagara, due to lack of doctors, amputations have increased. So like, I mean, there's real, obviously we know, but the impacts in people's lives are drastic. So it's a really important issue.
It certainly is. And we have an example right next door in Greater Napanee of one of the ways to deal with that, with the health team that's been formed there. Everybody in Napanee is going to be signed up. And that's based on a model by Jean Philpott, who used to be our Minister of Health, who's now Dean of Medicine at Queen's, who has undertaken a similar initiative in Kingston. So it's not all about money. It's partly about organization and cooperation. So in any case, did I get a mover and seconder? I did. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. And items for information. Association of Municipalities of Ontario Advocacy on Homelessness Encampments. This is a statement by AMO looking for support. Has everyone read this? And does anyone wish to make a motion? Wenda, go ahead. Microphone, please, Wenda.
I make a motion that we support this letter that will be added to the AMO Advocacy on Homelessness Encampment.
Can I get a seconder for that? Rob, any discussion? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. We have a letter from the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Deputy Premier and Minister of Health, Ontario, regarding public health labs. Basically, it says they are going to keep funding private water testing. Can I get a motion to receive this, please? Sorry, Doug and Sherry. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any new business and statements from members? None this see. Oh, Crystal Lee has.
Just one quick idea that I wanted to share. I know we're changing it to direct motion, so I was only going to just propose the idea. Just to improve our communications and make it easier when residents reach out, I would just like to propose that we made an email that is just council@stonemills.com and then set up so that email it then goes to all of council. So when we receive an email, people don't have to put in every single person individually, and I think that could be a quick thing to do. So I don't know if that requires a motion, but I just thought it would be good for everybody and just streamline that process so it makes it easier for people to let us know what they're thinking.
Any discussion on that? Wenda?
I really like that idea, but I'd like to suggest a slight tweak to it, and that is that Reeve Wise and Deputy Reeve Davidson not be included in that, so that you would send to them separately, because there will be times when people are going to want to just send to John and just send to Doug, and they might be hitting council because they think that's where it's going to go.
Yes, Crystal Lee.
I would just push back on that and be like, if people wanted to email them directly, I think that they would, but just then, because you are also a member of council, just because people, if they want to reach out to all of us, they mean all of us and not like at the exclusion of the Reeve or Deputy Reeve. And so if it was just to be one-on-one, they would probably reach out directly. I know some other municipalities do it, and I just think it saves people a lot of time. And again, that streamlining is what we want to engage people with ease. So.
Any other comment on that one? Sherry, go ahead.
I'd just like to hear from our CAO or Brandy if there's any issue with that.
Jason?
From a technical issue, I don't see why not. It's certainly possible. From a procedural point of view and a council communication point of view, I honestly, it's one of those moments where I don't have a great answer for you right away and might have to come back to you after we think about that.
Randy?
Through you, Reeve Wise, I would just caution when council is responding to these emails coming through, when all of council is responding to a constituent, it could be considered of having a meeting outside of a meeting, and those emails would be subject to FOI requests or closed meeting investigations. So if you're actively engaging all together with a resident, it may not be, if questioned, it may not be favorable to council members and the municipality.
Go ahead, Crystal.
Sorry. And on that same note, and that same thing applies if people email us all in one email, right? So it's really the same thing that we already have, but maybe not. If you feel free to jump in.
Just the moral of that story is a reply all might be considered a meeting of council. So that's whether you do it with one email address or multiple email addresses. If everybody's involved in the conversation, you're conducting a pseudo meeting via email with an exclusive group and not in a public forum.
Maybe we need a new section in our procedure bylaw already. Wanda, go ahead.
Just to clarify, I don't usually reply to all. I usually reply to the sender. But I've often wondered about this exact thing. Should I be replying to all? And now I'm getting the feeling that I shouldn't. Is that correct?
Go ahead, Brandy.
Through you, Reeve Wise, you can reply all, but you don't want to be making decisions on behalf of council through email meetings and moving the business forward of the corporation is the takeaway for that. Yes. So if someone emails all of council asking if something is going on an agenda or just a general question, and you're just providing the answer, that is totally fine. But if they're asking you to favor an application or a request for funding, and you hit reply all and say, I support your request, and then you have other council members also saying, I support your request, that's where you're going to get into issues if it's ever questioned.
Rob?
Yeah, just this is actually really great. I'm glad you brought this up, Crystal Lee, because this is really good information. This is one of those moments where instantly I see the advantage that you brought forward, and then I take a moment of pause because I'm thinking the same thing. I'm thinking, how does the replying work now? Is it going to change anything? And this is one of those aha moments where you're like, okay, this may not be as simple as it sounds. So I'm glad that this came up, and hopefully we can, that's great information. I'm glad you shared that. So hopefully we can come to is this worth the effort, or is it going to put us in hot water somewhere? So at this point, do we put this in the kind of pin it on the wall and then speak about it after we've explored that a bit? Other municipalities are doing it, but are they aware of these issues as well? It's a very interesting conversation.
It is. And at this point, Brandy, you had something to add?
I was just going to reiterate what our CAO said, or I forget who said it, but you can send an email to all of council and just put in all of their email credentials. It's no different than having the email address set up. But if you're replying all, then it's automatically just going to go out, was the point for that. So.
Anything further? Okay, we're at the point where we have to go into closed session pursuant to section 239 of the Municipal Act. The reason for the closed meeting is that council has a personnel matter about an identifiable individual, and also there's something that's subject to client solicitor privilege. So that's the end of the open meeting at this point. And I'll ask for a motion to go into closed session, and we'll also take 5 minutes. Doug and Sherry, all in favor? That's carried. Let's take a little break while the room clears and my head clears.